The digital world moves fast, but real growth comes from real conversations. This is e-Coffee with Experts, where marketers and founders share what's actually working in SEO, AI, and digital growth. Grab your coffee and fuel your mind as we chat with top minds about their wins, struggles, and lessons you won't find in a blog post. Brought to you by Digital Web Solutions, we bring real talk to help you grow your business, one episode at a time. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. This is the Coffee with Experts, and today I brought you a very big player in the customer engagement market. We're going to be talking to the CEO of Dixa, Christian Lohmann, who has been working with them for around 5 years, knows a lot about how to make sure that the customers are engaged. But not only that, he's a very nice guy who also makes sure that his friends and conversations are engaging enough. So I promise you that this will be an amazing episode for you to learn more about himself, about the market, and about the future of how things will turn out. Christian, welcome to the show. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing really good, thank you, and thank you so much for the very nice introduction. I'll do my best to live up to it.
I'm already sure that you're making the best that you can. You're a very nice guy already for the 15 minutes we've been talking, and that's valuable enough, especially when we're talking about customer engagement. Because if down the line, if I am a buyer looking for a nice platform about engagement, I will take a little bit of a deeper look towards if the company is making sure that I'm engaged across the buying journey, for example, or any other way that I met, then I want to make sure that it's not just a tool that you're selling and saying like, hey, do the things that I sell, but I don't do them myself. So that's why it's always good to bring CEOs to the table, to bring owners to the episode, so that we can show that it is not just a facade. People are just busy looking at numbers. They're real thing, and the real thing is the conversation that we can have right now. So thank you for joining. Thank you
Thanks.
for accepting. I'm very glad to have you here. And overall, my first question to every single guest of mine is if we can rewind a little bit and talk about you, Christian, growing up, making sure if you can let us know why did you even join such a market? How did it all happen? Whatever you can do to open your heart and let us know a little bit more about you, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I'll try. I think the way it started for me, growing up, standard in many aspects, standard childhood, loving family and friends and all of that. But also maybe on some aspects just slightly different. I was spending most of my time with my mom.
Oh, that's nice.
My mom and I, so to say, were alone, and she was handicapped. So there was a lot of, let's call
Okay.
it, additional responsibilities, of course, in the youth of having that, controlling 10, 15 caretakers, making sure they show up to work, making sure that they treat my mom nicely and they have fun at work and are glad to be there. So it felt very natural to me, but I think for most people it would have been a not so normal childhood after all.
Look, I can resonate with you because, well, luckily it turned out better for you, but I lost my mother when I was 11 years old out of cancer. So she didn't have any disabilities for a while, but for the past 6 months before she left us, it was a very difficult situation overall. So I do understand what you're saying. And you have my sympathies. Let's just say it like that. I know how hard she can be, and I'm definitely sure that it helped you become a better man, a better person overall.
Yeah, I think it's it's kind of the paradox, right? Because obviously you don't want anybody to go through hard times,
Yeah.
but I think if you are to take the positives, you can only build resiliency if it's hard times. You can't really train for it. After all, I'm glad for the childhood I had. I think it gave me a ton of qualities. I'm glad for the relationship I had with my mom, despite her being very, very sick for a long time. So yeah, all in all, I was a happy boy growing up here in Copenhagen, Denmark, or close to at least.
Nice. I was next to Copenhagen 3 months ago. I was in a city called Kolding, and I arrived there at 5 a.m. For an event that would start at 9 a.m. And I remember me walking because there wasn't Ubers, there wasn't boats from the station to the hotel, so I had to walk with my suitcase. And the wheels were spinning and making sound. I was like, oh my God, these Danish people, they will kill me for making all this noise. Super, super, I'm not gonna say empty because it wasn't empty. Everybody was just sleeping, but super calm city overall. It's a very, very nice place. The culture that you guys have, the talks that I had with Danish people, you are, even though when compared to Brazilians, for example, it looks like you're very cold to approach. I didn't feel that way. I felt like they were just, okay, who are you? And they don't say, hey, I'm Victor, nice to meet you, and they will all open their smiles because they want to talk, right? And
I
go
think
on.
what I hear in my position is when we talk to people around the world is, some of that being cold or at least very direct. I don't know if it's just me or if it's Danes in general, but we are probably a little more unfiltered in some aspects.
Yeah, that's fine.
But it's all meant with a good heart.
Yeah, I know. Of course it is. And at the other side of the spectrum, you have Brazilians just talking so much and not giving any care about their relations with others that they don't know. So I think it's best to find that middle term, making sure that everybody stays engaged for a conversation. And then you can decide during it if this is something that you want to keep on tracking or not, right? That's how we literally do this with customers right now, by making sure that they stay engaged with our product, our subscription, the thing that they apply themselves for, so that they will come back again and continue their sponsorship with us. And because of that, I would like to actually would love to ask you. I know that you've been at Dixa circa 2020. You weren't the CEO when you joined. You are now. So a lot of things I imagine may have changed. You joined before COVID, then you had COVID, and then right now you're the CEO. So again, a lot of things have changed that you observed yourself, that you took part into, that now made you step into this position. So how was it when you joined Dixa, and how much did it change?
So when I joined Dixa, that was in the haze of the haze, hype-wise, on software, SaaS, generally speaking. Multiples were through the roof. VCs couldn't get enough swimming. They had too much dry powder and needed to figure out investments to do quickly. I was coming from a background in M&A, so I was very much helping startups or tech companies raise money, sell companies, buy companies, whatever it was. And I think I got turned on by the idea of, how much fun it looked like on the other side. Really, the grass looked so much greener on the startup side, and people were making a killing on their warrants, and they were making tons of fun, and it was all about hiring people and planning parties and figuring out where on the moon you should land and so on. So I really joined Dixa with a very open job description, which were essentially me coming in, becoming the chief strategy officer, we called it. Reality was I was coming in and heading myself and nothing else. And Dixa on the one side saying, you're probably great, but you are a commodity. All you can do is the same as all the other bankers. And me on the other side saying, I'm such a I'm so talented, so my ego cannot join if it doesn't start with a C. So this was kind of the hybrid of that, and then things just took off. We did funding rounds, larger funding rounds. We acquired companies. We grew the company at 2-3x in the first year I was here.
That's great.
And that was, the feeling was great until it didn't feel great because we just scaled too quickly, especially in terms on the side of FTEs. I mean, we would have loved even more growth on top for sure, but that was really good. But the challenge was just the organizational setup, and we were putting ourselves in a bad position for the future if we didn't make changes once the downturn in the beginning of 22 started. So we've been through a lot of layoffs and cost reductions or cost adjustments, not increasing costs while growing and so on. So last 2 years we have doubled our AR while taking off half of all our costs. So it's been some
Well,
tough
roller coaster.
We're in a good place. Yeah, it's proven to be the right thing to do, I think.
It's never nice. For example, as you said, I could feel the pain coming from your words, but it's never nice to do layoff rounds, right? It's never.
I mean, it's real people, it's real humans.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel nice, but I think in the position of senior management, you have to be able to separate the feelings you have personally to the feelings what's the right thing to do for the company.
For sure. And right now, as I said, you've been through so many things already just at Dixa, not even considering your past roles, that I imagine that you have a very clear or set vision of how you want Dixa to be moving forward, the core mission, the values. So let me ask you this. Is there already something guiding you guys towards making sure that the decisions you're going to be doing are the correct ones? We never know if they are the correct ones until we do them and then we see the consequences. But is there something that you're making right now to make sure that layoffs will never happen again, for example?
I would love to promise that. Layoffs is also not only bad. If you have a lot of talented people who get disturbed by one person, maybe it is the right thing. But we came into cost reductions because we were spending too much, and that was purely management who've set us up for much more ambitious numbers. If you continue doubling every day, of course you can have whatever cost and you will just outgrow it. But reality didn't play out that way. So the setup was wrong, and therefore we needed to do these corrections. So it's a balance for sure. I think the best way I'm doing it now is what I'm seeing is the fewer decisions I make, the better decisions we make. And, it's easy to say, but you have to really believe it. The people whom I'm working with are much smarter than I am in their respective fields. So my job to some extent is more making sure everybody has the context for everything that's going on. So if I can be transparent in, why I think positioning us this way makes sense or not doing that makes sense, then the people are so smart that they will definitely come up with better solutions than I can.
I agree. It is about leveraging the people that you have.
Yes.
Right.
There's no plan B to that.
Awesome. No, I 100% agree. I'm very much a people person as well, where I feel like the talents should be, how can I say? We should motivate all the talents that we can as much as possible. Make sure that people stick around. Again, it looks quirky, but I'm not talking about engagement just because this is a customer engagement platform. But at the end of the day, it's all about engagement everywhere in the world. Even at our houses, we need to engage with those that we live in. On the street, when you go to the supermarket, it's always about engaging. And one thing that I learned by engaging a lot is that it usually pays off. People like gentleness, people like nice smiles, especially those that are working again in the supermarket, that are super stressed out. And then you come in and say, hey, how are you doing? These small bits of engagement help a lot. And it's something that some business still don't get it. Talking up, please.
No, I was just saying I'm glad you're saying that, because that's kind of the philosophy at Dixa, right? We're helping support teams. I don't know if you've ever worked as a support agent or a customer hero.
Customer success manager, I did, yes.
Yes. You know that most of the people who contact brands are in a position where they're not happy. Something typically went wrong, and that is why they're contacting. They're like on the deep. So getting a good, positive conversation out of that, customer friendships, as we like to call it, has a value. And I think that's where we have come in, and, tech has helped us as well here at Dixa prove, what is the value of actually delivering good services. I don't know how much time we'll talk about the Dixa platform today. I think that's not important, but
it is. Feel free to talk more about it. Don't you worry. Let's talk more about the platform for sure.
But I just think what we see with AI right now, changing lane here a little bit, but I really think it's important on the product side is you can really use it twofolded, either to where everybody starts like, how can I automate all my tasks so I don't have to do anything, or I don't have to pay people to do anything? And it's like, of course you can do that, but it's just like, I think the value is significantly more or significantly higher if you focus on how can you do better in your job. I think we can all relate to the fact that if you have a colleague who's really talented, really good, it's like X all the others. Like, people are so much more valuable, so much nicer to be with, whatever it is. And yet we try to use this powerful new AI LLMs out there to automate rather than to optimize many places. So I think the automation is the easy stuff. Everybody can build that. Everybody can use that. Using AI to do your job better is the tricky part. Or knowing when to step in or knowing when to step out is the more tricky part. And sorry for going off a tangent here, but it's like, this is what we're saying here.
No, because I actually want to know and to share with the audience more about Dixa. So if we can just continue having Dixa as a topic, that would be amazing. Because you see, we were just pointing out the importance of customer engagement, not customer, just engagement. But I feel like right now we are setting stone to talk about customer engagement and how Dixa helps. So as I was saying, a lot of companies and business, they still don't understand the value of making sure that their customers are engaged in a nice way, because they can be engaged, but they can be engaged in having to send tickets about issues that the platform has, or having to talk to support about and frustrated, like something that made them frustrated enough, expectations that weren't there. So walk us through a little bit about the market that you're in right now, about the importance of Dixa, and what you are doing to make sure that Dixa stays top of mind to the users and to the market itself, if you can, please.
Sure. I think let's start with what we do, and then how we do it, or how we try to stay relevant or known is a separate thing. So what are we? More than, we don't see ourselves as a customer engagement platform. We see ourselves as a customer experience platform or whatever. If we peel out some of these buzzwords and, what is it actually? We help consumer brands or shops, B2C companies who have a lot of questions coming in from their consumers. We help the support team handle the queries, the conversations, the whatever. You could best think of this, historically you had a huge contact center. We were all sitting in lines, picking up the phone, like you, me, you, and then it was going around, because that was the art of the possible, right? Eventually we figured out, okay, this is much easier. If we ask people to send us an email, we can handle it in a low-cost country. Everybody knows English. We could probably translate it somehow. We can do it when we want to, not when you want to, but when I want to reply. We can do reply all. We can do we can do it cheaper, more efficient. What we have said, and really where Dixa has pioneered the next phase of this is, we call it conversational. But leaving that aside, we are saying, consumers today, they will be on whatever platform they are on. They are in your app. They are playing on the video console. They are using WhatsApp, Instagram, TikTok, what have you. And if they're looking at some commercial in TikTok, they want to reply in TikTok. They don't want to go into a computer, find a browser, and then ask, oh, do you have this in my size? So we really said, okay, if the focus is how do you make this easy, ready, available, and the right thing for the consumers to use, and on the other side, how do we supercharge the person who is sitting trying to reply? How do you make you as smart as possible? You know who is calling or who is writing or who is doing whatever. You know what they bought. You know what they didn't buy. You know everything, so to say, we have available. The likelihood that you can do a good service to that person is just much, much higher.
That's true.
And
That
what
is
we're
true.
doing now, where we are together with a lot of the large, super cool, more classic customer engagement tools, Braze, Voyato, Yotpo, what have you, these bigger ones of which we really like and think are doing great stuff, is combining those two platforms or leveraging the fact that if I am to help you figure out something, you're complaining, where's my order, I don't know. It's probably relevant for me to know what kind of campaigns have you been exposed to? What kind of messaging resonated with you? Why did you click? Why did you not click? It might also be that you're telling me, I want to opt out of these campaigns. And me giving you the story, oh, yes, I'm working for the brand, but what you need to do is now go into unsubscribe.com, whatever, and figure it out yourself. It's just, so if the systems are talking together using, let's call it classic marketing data, in understanding how you should also react to people after they purchase something, is giving a much more 360 experience. And quite frankly, it is churn preventive. We see that people have lower churn when they do this right. We see people have higher CSATs or higher satisfaction, depending on how they measure. And not least, that you can actually handle the questions much quicker. So it is done right, a really powerful way to do better service for your customers.
I'm pretty sure that you work with several brands across various different industries as well. Talking about how they are doing things right now, is there like a common mistake that you see most of them doing, even at enterprise level?
For sure. I think one thing that most don't do well enough is really simple. It's communication.
Okay, I see what you mean.
I mean, it's okay to send people an email saying we have not solved your problem, but we're still looking at it. That email goes out very rarely, but it's a small hack almost to increase, the feelings you have in the other end. And this is equally for enterprises and non-enterprises. I actually think with the speed we're seeing right now in tool sophistication or abilities, the enterprises are the sitting ducks. They are in a difficult position because they're just not moving quickly enough right now. Slightly smaller brands are leveraging data and AI so beautifully to do better service or better engagement or better experience, if you will. So that's definitely one. The other one, which we're seeing all the time, is lack of North Stars. People want to show nice things, so they're kind of changing, this week this was good, this week that was good, and that can be great, but they really don't know if their customers are happy. And therefore they have set up, let's use CSAT. And I would say you can manipulate any CSAT you want to. If you ask people, as an example, if you ask people to give you a CSAT on WhatsApp or on chat, lower right corner, right? they will give you a CSAT of 1.2 star higher than if you ask them on email. Same people, same questions, same
Oh,
everything.
wow.
So
Okay,
if
that's
you are
interesting.
a manager and you are commissioned on CSAT, I would do more CSATs on those channels and fewer on the others, and you would get a different picture. I'm not sure you really changed anything, but you will get a different picture. So figuring out how do you actually, what's the true metric of your customers' positive, happiness, friendship, or whatever you want to call it, is something very, very few get right. It's difficult.
It is. It is. Of course it is.
In market,
Is
it's easier because you see, money into Google, money out of Google, and you can follow the clicks, and there's like a logic, right? You do not know if people attributed positive value to their customer support experience. Many don't, at least. Most
yeah.
don't.
And it is, as people say, it's easier to see how more often people complaining than saying nice things, right? They will always be back to make sure that they are unsatisfied with something, but they rarely come back to say that they're very satisfied with something.
And how do you measure if somebody goes from a minus 10 stars on Trustpilot to just 0? I mean, it's difficult, or from
It
plus
is.
500, right? There's kind of a ranges where like I'm happy enough, but maybe people are like so happy that now they're advocates for your brand forever. Anyhow, there's a lot going on in that right now. And there are some of the common mistakes for sure that we see a lot of companies doing.
Imagine that if we were to talk like in 2 years, I think even less, like in a year from now, and I were to ask you the same thing, the overusage of AI would be a mistake that some companies will be doing, like preventing real humans from talking to the customers, putting everything into AI. And we know that this is not the best path towards any kind of customer support, right?
I agree fundamentally, but there are actually nuances where it could make sense. And, not throwing any brands in the mix here that could, but let's say you run a very, very low cost electronic web shop where you have price guarantees, meaning if I find somewhere on the web a cheaper, you match the price, right? In this instance, I don't pick you for any attributes other than your ability to sell me cheap stuff. So in this case, it might actually be perfect on brand for you to just have a, as cost efficient setup as you possibly can, because people are actually not paying for anything else. But if you, like 99% of the brands out there, have a value on your brand and actually think there is a lot of positive behaviors in treating your customers well, I agree. I think you should use a ton of AI, but not only to automate, also to optimize your skills.
Yeah, as you said.
Give you information. This person has watched these YouTubes and clicked around here and sees this tutorial. Maybe we should suggest buy the other package, the big one,
Yeah.
whatever, right? I wouldn't say you should limit the amount of AI. You should just realize that AI is not only to cut cost.
Perfect. Perfect. Is this something that you're also warning the other CEOs about? Like, as I said, you've been through a lot of things. You know a lot about how to run a business by now. And you learn some things during the hard moments, as we were talking about a few minutes ago. So, right now, whenever any other CEO, C-level comes talk to you, is there something that you usually warn them, like letting them know, hey, I did this, it was a mistake. Hey, I did this, it was a huge success. You should do it as well.
I think on the manager side of it, the list of mistakes is longer. There's a lot of learnings.
That's life.
Myself coming in as an unexperienced manager, so tons of mistakes for sure. I think the biggest one we did, or I was part of doing here in Dixa, was the blind trust in hiring people will create positive outcomes.
Okay.
And really, what we ended up with was a culture that is, here's a task, who should I hire to do the task, rather than who should do. So sometimes we would hire people and we gave them the wrong impression. So their thinking was coming in, now my job is to hire 5 people to do what I just pitched as a good idea. Now we have a different approach, both because the market has dictated it, but also because it's a much sounder and more prudent way of building the company. I believe that's kind of at least my view on it. I am very much AI first, and not just because of the buzz lingo out there, but because it forces you to think, how can I solve this myself by leveraging and using everything available out there? but it doesn't look at how can I make sure I don't do this. So we hired too quick. We were kind of like already, once we double, we will have an issue. And we ended up creating an issue and not growing our way into the issue in some instances.
If you were to advise a company, a SaaS company that's gonna start right now,
Yep.
in regards to hiring, okay, still talking about it, is there like a department that you feel should be, covered as quick as possible? Is it like, let's hire one for sales, one for after sales, one for engineering, stuff like this? Or is it even being advised to outsource a lot of things, maybe to AI, but also maybe to other countries?
You mean buying companies focused on sales, or what do you mean, sorry? Yeah.
Yeah, like starting a new company, starting a new SaaS startup, where should they focus first?
That's a good question. I think what I'm seeing right now is 10 years ago, if you had a really cool product, a really cool like use case, you were solving something, then that was a very difficult part, and everybody would focus on, proof of concept, or is this smart? Does this work? Can this, actually, is anybody looking for it? I think today it's much easier to build the products. So the real challenge in creating big companies is not coming up with an idea or making that idea go live. It is building the company, getting your go-to-market efficient and making a name for yourself as a brand, finding the right people who can do the right things. I think we will become even more people dependent as AI and everything comes in, because the easy stuff is easier and easier. And I think for new founders who go in and build product companies, tech companies, it would be difficult to sell companies, small companies, where yesterday there was always a buyer, even if it was a small one, people would buy the revenue or the tech or something. Now you could get a fancy app to build all the software for you, and
That's
it
true.
would, a little black and white, said the guy who can't code. So it's
I
easy for
don't
me.
either.
Yeah. So I think it's much more about building companies than products going forward.
I see what you mean. I see what you
And
mean.
therefore,
Building
the
culture.
consumer side comes much more into it than it has been for a few years.
Do you have already like a set list of whenever you're hiring someone or whenever you're meeting a candidate, do you look for some things in that person that will make it click for you? Like, okay, so I know that this guy has worked with tech, so he's a great fit. He's conversational, so he's a great fit, but he at the same time talks too loud. I don't know. Is there something that you're always looking for when hiring people that you know is a good indicative that they are already starting with a head start?
I would love to be able to say yes, but
It's
reality is
complicated.
I've found that, whenever I'm too stubborn on looking for something, I tend to look too much towards things that falls naturally to myself, or like things I like as a person.
Mm.
Those qualities, I think that is great qualities. Kind of, I get too biased. So what we do here is at Dixa is we use talent screenings. We call it basically like a personality test. Take this, and it will give me as an interviewer a full report of your talents.
That's nice.
It probably wouldn't be speak loud, but it would be charming, extrovert, happy to be in center. And then we could have a conversation around that. What if you don't get the attention? If you need to be quiet? How do you handle those situations? And by the way, you will be working together with this person, this type of talents. We see a conflict in the making. Let's address that up front. And not least, let's make sure we call it, diversify, the diversification, but not only on are you tall or male or female, but also like cognitive. Are we thinking differently? Are we challenging each other? Are we complementing each other? And some areas, are we the same? Because here we believe two of the same will be the right skills in these positions. So I'm trying to not be have a set list of do's and don'ts. It hasn't helped me so far.
It's kind of like finding a girlfriend. You want someone who is gonna laugh at your jokes. She has like
I sense you're in the dating market these days. Is that a fair assumption?
no, but you see, ever since I joined the corporate market, the sales corporate market in 2019, I noticed how much this is all a dating world.
There's a lot
It's
of dating.
yes.
That's true. That's very true.
Yeah, so I noticed that if I treat my customers and my partners the same way that I treat my wife or even my past girlfriends, which I usually tend to treat them very much in a nice way, things will work out, you know? So whenever I have conversations such as the ones we were having, for me, it always goes back to how we live our lives.
Mm.
We focus a little bit too much on talking about the professional side of things, but look at the personal one. You know, if you know how to make sure we were talking about getting in touch with customers. If I want to let my wife know that I love her, should I do it on an email or in a WhatsApp message if she's not around me? I think the WhatsApp message would be quicker to deliver that sentiment, that feeling, that engagement. Right. So at the end of the day, it is all about making sure that you treat your customers just like you were to treat your wife, your spouse, your husband. If you are a person who likes to treat them nicely, I think that could be applied. If this doesn't fit, then it doesn't fit. Then you have to, of course, be mindful of treating people nicely enough.
And of course, treating each other nicely is the only way to do it for sure. And I think very few brands would argue they do it opposite, even if we all try to be spoken to in a not so friendly tone or get answers we didn't like. I think what we really focused on at Dixa, which is allowing the brands to live up to their brand potential, also when they do support. For some, that is white glove, super high end, want to speak to everybody. It's kind of their brand style.
Mm-hmm.
Some, it's we don't have the ones who wants to do it, just automate, everything. As I say, you can just do an auto reply that is, we don't answer. That is
Mm-hmm.
very cheap, and you can do it as cheap as you want, right?
Yeah.
You can just not hire people to answer the phone.
Yeah.
It's really not that complicated.
No.
So what's the balance? What's the right balance? Where does it make sense? Where is it? Where do you see a return on spending money? Because everybody who were driving Uber wanted to get a voucher, who wanted to get a voucher, got a voucher 10 years ago. Today, they're a little more picky. They're just not throwing out vouchers right left and center anymore, right? Because they are in a different phase with their brand. Not just growth at all costs. Now it's needs to make sense, needs to be profitable. So how do you equip the managers to make the decisions, vouchers or non-vouchers, returns or non-returns?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we can, no, we cannot. These kind of decisions that ultimately we would all like to say yes to, but they come with a cost. So, right, where's the balance for the brands?
That's the big question, I imagine, right? How do you find that balance? And I think that's how we can close this episode. Before we leave, I would only ask you one more thing, Christian, which is, I always ask at the end if you have an advice for those that are starting now. But we covered this already, which we talked a lot about how to hire the right people, how to make sure that you don't do the mess that a lot of companies did in the past. So instead, I'm going to ask you differently. What's in it for Dixa and Christian for the next 6 months that we can wait around? Is there a project that you're doing or a side thing that you're doing, a book that you're writing, a trip that you're going to be doing that's very much going to change your life and that people should stay tuned for?
I hope a lot of great stuff will happen.
Same, my friend, same.
And we'll see the world and have fun and explore and get new perspectives. But if we just zoom in on Dixa for a little bit, I think what we are seeing, especially in our industry, is, the next 12 months, you will see AI going from cool to have to need to have and
must have, right?
Rapid evolution of proving value. There will still be people out there who's like, I don't know if AI is truly going to be that revolutionary and being that valuable. Let's see. And I think the next, 6 months, you will start to see, okay, there's just absolutely no alternative to having AI everywhere when you talk software. And for that matter, many other places, I'm sure, but especially in support software. That's for sure.
That I agree. I 100% agree. Well, Christian, thank you for the amazing chat. Thank you for sharing so much about what happened with you and what happens with Dixa in the future, about how things will turn out to be. It's good that we managed to agree on everything that we were talking about. For those that are watching us, this wasn't script in a way where like, hey, Christian, you have to agree with everything. Hey, Victor, you have to agree with everything. So, always nice to see lookalikes in the show. Always nice to learn more about how we can become better human beings. And as you said, do I look like I am in the dating stage? I'm always in the dating stage, always looking for new partners, new colleagues. It is all a dating world. So I just play the game. That's how I feel. Really helps nowadays especially again after COVID, where people were so much turned off, switched off from conversational things, from moments with other friends. We need to cherish those the best way that we can, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And thanks for being here. Thanks for hosting
Oh,
me.
of course. It's the least I can do. For everyone who's watching us right now, you're gonna have all of Dixa's and Christian's links down the description below the like button. Don't forget to support the channel. And for everyone else, this has been Victor and Christian. We'll catch you the next time. Thank you, Christian.
Thank you. Bye.